Welcome to the Freedom Factor. I'm your host, Oliver Bardwell, and today we have a special guest, Representative Helena Hayes.
Thank you, Oliver, for having me. I'm excited to be here.
For sure. You know, you've been in the freedom movement for a long time, and now you're actually up in the Capitol fighting on the front lines. How does that feel?
Well, actually, let me correct you on that a little bit already. A long time. I wouldn't say a long time already, because like many other families and parents and people that I know personally, we've only been involved basically since COVID. COVID was definitely the red pill moment for a lot of us. That's when I started to pay attention to the winds in politics, and then that sort of, you know how politics is, it's a little bit addictive. Once you get started and you start paying attention, you start really seeing, wow, we got a lot of problems. And so, yeah, I would say, like a lot of people, it's only been in the last couple of years.
Yeah, it seems like a long time, though, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. A lot of issues.
Yeah, it's been a couple of years for us too, and it was the COVID that really red pilled us. I mean, it was amazing how quickly things turned into some sort of Twilight Zone movie, you know?
Yes, definitely.
How did you start when you woke up to everything that was going on? What were the first actions you took, and how did that lead you to being a representative in your district? And what district is that again?
Okay, well, yeah, let me catch your viewers all up on that. So thank you again for having me. I'm excited to be here. So again, my name is Helena Hayes. I am from District 88, Iowa House District 88, which includes half of Mahaska County, all of Keokuk County, and then part of Jefferson County. The truth is, I am not a politician. And as a matter of fact, I see a shift away from politicians going into office and just average, normal people who have lives and children and families. And so my story began because in June of 2021, we had an incident in the Pella pool. A 15-year-old girl went topless at the pool because she identified as a transgender boy. Of course, in the conservative city of Pella, you can imagine that really took some people by surprise, and they were upset, rightfully so, because nothing had been done at the pool regarding that. And so the next city council meeting, which followed, I think, about a week and a half after that event, the next meeting was standing room only. There was overflow crowd outside. And that's because the city council owns the Pella Public School. It's one of their departments. And so lots of parents spoke that night for the very first time, including me. You get your 3 minutes to go to the microphone and have your piece. That meeting lasted, I think 2 hours or something, just to hear all the concerns and stuff, until there was nobody left to voice their concerns. And at the end of that, the city council came back and said, we are not going to take any further action. And as you can imagine, yeah, we as parents went, we don't like that answer. We can't settle for that answer because something is, incredibly wrong here. So they did so because gender identity is in the Civil Rights Code, along with sexual orientation. We were told, take it to the Capitol. We can't do anything, go up there. So we did. We got a group of people together. Well, actually, even before that time, I was at a barbecue at my neighbor's house, not too far from here. And we were just talking amongst ourselves about what we were going to do about this issue. And so we started a Facebook page and called it Keep Pella Family Friendly. That just skyrocketed. We had 900 followers within just a few weeks. We followed that issue closely as we, tried to talk more, just uncovering things, asking questions, just having a conversation about what was going on. And then we began to ask, what are we going to do about this? And so we found a petition that somebody was doing to strike gender identity out of the Civil Rights Code. We jumped on that opportunity. We formed a group, an advocacy group called Protect My Innocence, which seeks to push back against the sexualization of children in the form of books and drag shows and curriculum and sex ed, it goes on and on.
So
And
I think I met the bookstore owner. There's a little bookstore in Pella, and he
and
was at one of our
yes,
rallies, and he was with Protect My Innocence.
yes,
Yeah, and then of course they were
DJ.
at that meeting we had last Monday.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Pella Books, great place. I don't think you're going
Yeah,
to find any obscene books in his store, at least for children. I know that's for sure because he wouldn't allow that. Is there's something. So
I've
anyway,
been
yeah,
there. That's one of the things that I do is anytime I go to a small town, I look for the local bookstore. And my daughter goes to college there, so we stopped in one
well, that's
time. My
right.
wife and I were there, and yeah, and you know you wouldn't be surprised probably that the Hate You Give is required reading for every freshman that comes into
I
the
saw that.
center. Yeah, yeah.
I saw that.
So a girl who's 15 says, "I feel like I'm a boy, so I'm gonna not wear my shirt at the pool, and I'm gonna use the boys' locker or the boys' shower room."
Yes.
Okay, wow.
And yeah, because of that event, we started going to the Capitol and started asking questions. And, we came to realize, like many parents, we have not just a school problem, a library problem, a state problem, or even a national problem. You guys, we have a global problem that seeks to destroy children via civil indoctrination. So yeah, from there, I pushed back against why our representatives why we weren't taking a stand on this, and I'm excited because I see elections do make a difference, and that's what happened in the primary and the general this past year. That
How many new Republican freshmen came in?
we have 24 new freshmen out of the
24.
64 Republicans.
Wow,
That's
24
over a
new.
third.
And that was probably a direct result from all this woke craziness that's going on.
Um, a lot of it was, but we did have redistricting that occurred. When that happens, you have people that retire, people that maybe move over to the Senate, or lots of changes like that. And so it was the biggest class in several decades. And so yeah, it wasn't just that, but it most certainly that was a major factor in it. So that's exciting.
So how do you go from a pissed off parent to now you're actually at the House, you're a representative, you're voting on bills, pushing legislation to fix all this stuff?
Wow, that's a really good question. You know what? You
That's
you
why I
you
told you it's going to take a lot longer than 15 minutes to do
yeah.
this interview.
How do you go from a pissed off parent to a legislator? You know
Right.
what? Day by day, it's incremental. And as you learn and as we grow and change ourselves, you really become motivated to truly just make a difference. So how did I do that? It was door to door. It was door by door. You know what? Day by day. And so I like I said, I'm not a political person, but I had a lot of assistance, a lot of people that helped me out, and I have to give them credit for that because, and of course, all credit goes to the Lord too because He has enabled this to happen, and I just thank Him for that, and I intend to make sure that I do not forget that He is the one that brought me into this. He continues to go before me, and especially a lot of the other new freshmen. So yeah, gosh, those are good questions.
And I think that makes the difference when you have that moral compass and you have that faith, you're less likely to be swayed by someone that doesn't have that, I believe.
Well, you have to have a starting ground. We can't be relative. Not all things are relative. If you don't have a base, a principle from which to see the world and to move forward on, yeah, what are you left with? You shift with the winds, and it's just common sense. So
So you decided to run, and I know you worked your butt off, and here you are. What's this session look like? What does, we had the school choice bill that's just rushed kind of right through the House and the Senate committees. We had a lot of great people there speaking on behalf of that. And I know you've been inundated with emails from both sides. What's the next step for that?
we certainly have been quite busy. We're only 2 weeks into the session. Some districts are receiving thousands of emails regarding school choice. School choice bill has passed the committee process and will now be already going to debate early of next week. Once that debate is finished, we will be taking a vote on that bill and moving forward. The school choice has been on the table for several years now. I had one email that asked, why are you even doing this? Why are you guys trying to change, the status quo? What's so wrong? And part of the priorities in the party right now, in our Republican Party and at the House, the State House, answers that question, because three of our most important priority bills have to do with that reason why school choice is being made available to all Iowans. And that has to do because children are being exposed to things that they should not be exposed to in the public schools, and parents are sounding off, as they rightly should. They want a safe place for their students. We're putting all options on the board. So yeah, next week is going to be a very busy week at the State House. By Wednesday at the latest, we'll know something, I'm guessing. Don't quote me on that.
So
Remember,
when exactly are the debates?
You mean like time?
The floor debates, do you know when the Senate and the House are?
No,
It's
it
being
has not.
debated in both chambers, right?
Yeah, but it has not been scheduled.
Oh,
So
okay.
I can't say debate starts at this time. I know it'll be Monday or Tuesday, as
Okay,
far as I know.
sure.
So
And so when you
yeah,
talk about these books and the educational material and whatnot that parents are just struggling with, Terry with Moms for Liberty sent me over a copy of that book that they handed out at the Capitol, and it's called The
yes,
Lookbook. And it really gives you a startling look into some of these books. And there's a rating system. I was going to show some of it, but I think I would get banned from YouTube if I showed some of the content of these books that our kids are reading in school right now. I would be
well,
embarrassed to read excerpts of them.
yes. Now, if we were in the school district and you were a teacher, you would be exempt because of the obscenity law says that you're not held to that. But
Right,
yes, we're
exactly.
not. So we try to be careful about showing and exposing those books, because they have very inappropriate, graphic, obscene pictures and stories in them. And yes, Terry and Mom Liberty, all those incredible ladies have worked tirelessly on the book look. And wow.
I'm just scrolling through this right now, and
Yep.
I've got to say I'm appalled. I mean, especially at the graphic novels. I mean, it's
Don't scroll.
pornography. I won't share my screen because then I'd be put in jail. But this is pornography in the school
Yeah.
system. And then you read some of the excerpts from some of these books. Terry started to read one to me earlier today, and I said, "Stop, stop, stop. I get it.
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah.
It's porn, you know. Fine for an adult,
Yep.
but not for a teenage kid or even a junior high kid, you know."
Right. A lot of these books can be found in the elementary schools. And that's going to address we're going to address some of the bills that are coming forward from the priority of the party. So when it comes down to ages.
If you see my face scrunching up, it's because I'm scrolling through this to get to the last
Stop
page.
scrolling. No more.
I can see how they stirred the nest a little bit last week with these. Looks like the winner here is Valley High School. They have like 71 of these books, and
Yep.
there's a rating system. I think they pulled a rating system, and it's 0 to 5, and that's something that we talked about at that meeting last Monday with you and the education chair and the other legislators, was coming up with a rating system, which makes sense. You know, we have ratings for movies, right? Why not have ratings for books?
Yep, that's right. And I don't think they put any 5s on there. Everything that I think, don't quote me on this, from Terry, but I'm pretty sure there are 3s and 4s.
Yeah, I think
Across the board.
the highest they put on there was 4. And then they have the summary page. They have a list of a bunch of schools in Iowa, and then the number of books that they have either in the library, their classroom, or some of these are even
That's
required.
right.
Oh, there is a number 5. It's called Push. Oh my gosh. I think there's some graphic incest in this book.
I haven't seen that one. I'm good. I'm going
Okay.
to take
Anyway,
your
yeah, you get the
word on
picture.
that.
But what are the other 3 bills that are so important that you're talking about that addresses these things? And how can we support you in those?
Okay, so some of the priorities that the party is bringing forward, which I'm so absolutely tickled to see. I'm very, very encouraged. I got involved in this because this protecting children is obviously kind of a no-brainer and is very important to us. And so, thankfully, the leadership and previous representatives are bringing forth some wonderful stuff that many of the freshmen are excited to get behind. So the first one I'm going to talk about is House File 8. This has been introduced, but I don't believe it's been assigned to a subcommittee, but it hasn't happened yet. It'll probably be on the schedule for next week or quickly afterwards, the following week. So
Hey, real quick,
House File,
Helena, would you
yeah,
explain to someone how? Okay, so we've got HF8. It's been introduced. You think it's assigned to a subcommittee. How can you explain to our listeners the process of how a bill becomes a law, kind of just like a synopsis?
sure. So yeah, any representative or senator can submit an idea. They really just start with ideas and they take them to the respective offices of the LSA or our own staff, and they will draft it in the legal language that has to be there. And once that bill is drafted and approved, they work really hard at getting all of the kinks out of it. They bring it to us and we approve it, get co-signers. Once that's all done, then it is read in on a legislative day. Once it's read in, it's assigned to a subcommittee. A subcommittee is a small group of representatives, usually about 3. I think it's only 3 always. You got to remember, I'm still a freshman here. Once it passes out of subcommittee, it may pass or may not pass. That subcommittee is made up of two Republicans and 1 Democrat, by the way. Then it moves on to the larger committee, which there are 22 or 24 committees in the House, and so it moves on to the larger committee, which may consist of, sometimes that's only as little as 10 to upwards of in the 20s, the low 20s, and so it depends on which committee. So there are various sizes of that. Then it's discussed and presented in that committee. If it passes through that, then it is eligible to go up on the calendar for a debate. And so it gets scheduled in for that. There's lots of discussion. There's lots of discussion in caucus. There's amendments being proposed, things like that. It's getting wrestled with. Every word is being wrestled with. Then it can be brought to the floor in the debate, and then we hear from both sides. And then, yes, we finally get to vote on it. This will be the floor debate for school choice will be the first debate for 24 of us freshmen of the year. So we're 2 weeks in and we'll have our first debate on the 3rd week. And so it'll be one of many for the rest of this session. So we're all excited. I know I'm excited to see the mechanics of the debate. I haven't watched a lot of them yet, past ones that have been recorded. So I'm looking forward to actually getting to be a part of it this time. And so that's the gist of it. And of course gets voted on. And
So
this particular,
I want to make a point there. I want to interject that it comes from an idea. And a lot of times that idea comes from concerned citizens,
oh, absolutely.
right?
Absolutely.
So they petition you, they call you, they email
Yep.
you, they go down to the Capitol, they fill out a slip, they talk to you.
Yep.
Anybody can start the process, any person. And so the struggle that I have, and I was in, a few years ago before we had
Yep.
this issue, I woke up and I thought, oh, my voice doesn't matter. We can't make a difference. They don't care about what we think. They're all corrupt politicians, right? But what I've learned is that our representatives actually listen to us. They want to hear from us, and we need to support them, right?
Absolutely. And one thing you're going to learn is, you know what? they're just normal people like
Exactly.
me. And they're drinking from a fire hose, especially their first couple of years, learning just all the because I'm a mom of 20 years. I'm homeschooled for 20 years. I don't have a political background, nor do I have even lawyer, doctor, all those kinds of fancy titles that have all that special lingo, language, and this kind of stuff. When we talk about politics, there is language to it. Here's one bill. Look at this. This can be very boring looking. Here, I'll hold it up for you.
Right.
Okay, how
Right.
many people get excited over Iowa code? Trust
Exactly.
me, some people do. Just talk to somebody in my county today who loves to print these off and take them home and read them.
Yeah, I've printed many off and highlighted and underlined and written in the margins. Yeah,
Yes,
it's
yes.
not
So
leisurely fun.
it's not. It's hard. It's hard work. But yeah, what you just said is key because everybody needs to know who their House of Representative is, who their senator is. Okay. Personally know them by their first name, reach out to them somewhat regularly,
Yep.
a couple times a year or something more if you know of issues that you're following, and follow up with them, because I know I have realized, wow, I am going to be so busy. If you want to reach, if just please reach out to them, because they are just trying to keep their head above water a lot of times. And so we do want to hear from the voters and the people that we represent. Absolutely.
I didn't know who my representatives were before COVID either, and I quickly found out, and I found that they want to talk to you and they want to know what you're thinking and what you're concerned about, because they're up there in the middle of
Absolutely.
sometimes what can be like a
Yeah.
snake pit. I shouldn't say that, but it's a tough thing. I've talked to a lot of folks up there, and I know it's not easy. So this bill, now that we kind of understand the process, HF8, what is that bill about, and what is that going
So
to do for our
yes.
kids?
So every bill gets a title number like that, and oftentimes they will get assigned sort of just a regular name. So House File 8 in Florida was called the Don't Say Gay bill,
Okay.
even though that's kind of a misnomer. It doesn't really lend to positive words there, but basically this bill, which has been sort of modeled after what Sanchez did, will prohibit the teaching of gender identity and sexual orientation in school districts, public school and charter schools, for grades kindergarten through 3. Grade 3. That's where this bill sits right now, as it was introduced. Now, I can guarantee you that age is going to be there's going to be some amendments on that. I for sure will be suggesting that be 12th grade.
I'm
Okay.
glad you said that. I was
Because
about ready to come out of my seat. No, I'm just kidding. No,
it
yeah,
starts,
third grade is too. I mean, you're right. I think I don't think we need any of that.
yeah, it starts for K through 3rd because it was modeled after the Florida bill. But yeah, what difference does it make if the child is 9 or 10? All of a sudden now we qualify them to be instructed in gender identity and sexual
Right,
orientation.
right, because they're just
No,
finding out that Santa Claus isn't real.
right,
So,
exactly.
so
So then,
maybe they can decide what gender they are.
I want to really encourage people, because there are moms all across the state who are crying out against this. Okay, they are saying, "You guys, please listen to me. Look what's happening in my schools. I'm pulling my child out." Or they're coming home with these horror stories. I've heard them, and I've heard so many. One thing that I want to encourage moms and dads on is that this bill has 34 co-signers. Okay, that is really key. I point that
Wow.
out because there are 64 Republicans. For any bill to pass in the Iowa House, you need a majority vote, right? We have 100 representatives. That means we have 100 districts. You can see my map back here.
Right, I can
These,
see it.
when you guys get to the Capitol, moms, dads, anybody watching, make sure you get one of these. They're free. At the desk, there's a little room down in um, the cafeteria area, or you can get them at the like the gift shop area.
Maybe I'll get one
But
and put it up next to my Iowans for Freedom artwork there.
so it's all color coded for districts and senates. So we have 100 districts, we have 50 senate, 100 House, 50 Senate. And that's because each Senate district is made of 2 House districts. So we have 150 elected representatives total. So when I say that we have 34 co-signers on this bill and how encouraging that is, I want parents to know that that's only what's 51 minus 34. Somebody do the math. 17.
17, yeah.
17 is all the number of votes more you need from Ready What's co-signed on there to pass that bill.
So this bill
Okay.
has hope. What tell us about that bill?
Okay, that's I'm going to quote it, the "Don't Say Gay" bill from Florida, even though it just will
So
basically
what
will
are the
ban.
repercussions? What are the, because we saw with HF 802 that
Yeah,
a lot of that was ignored, and then the Iowa Department of Education did not support that bill and did not enforce it very
yes,
often. And the
you
process,
are.
yeah, the process for making a complaint or what, it was convoluted and not great.
No, you're absolutely right. And actually, this particular bill, at the way it stands right now in its introduction draft phase, it does not actually have any enforcement policies in it right now.
Okay.
And so that is likely going to be a proposed amendment too, because
Okay.
how do you hold them accountable once you do have somebody that goes against what the code is saying? So it doesn't actually have anything in it as it stands.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's definitely something that needs to be added.
Yeah. And a lot of people will hear the language, it has teeth.
Right.
How do we hold schools accountable to things when there are no consequences? And that's been a problem in the past, like when Senate President Chapman last year, he introduced a bill on, was it parental rights or transparency? And he had some stuff in there about enforcement and consequences, for teachers and stuff. And wow, the media just went bonkers over that, and then you always heard them say, Chapman wants to put teachers in jail.
Yeah, exactly. And I have a bit of a challenge with that because I know there are some woke teachers that believe, they've gone to school, they've gone to college, they believe in this gender affirming stuff that's just kind of infiltrated our culture. But there's a lot that don't. And what happens, I mean, we have some, like at our teacher school or at my kids' school, we have amazing teachers, but we have curriculum that comes through, whether it be through Castle and Second Step, SEL program, or say like San Francisco Math, or some of these woke curriculum makers, I guess you would say. And they're taking advantage of these, like a public school, it's free curriculum. Well, free means something, nothing's ever free. And then the books that come through, these books are winning awards, the ALA is giving them awards and they're pushed through the system somehow. I don't know that it's always the teacher. I mean, maybe it's the administration that allows it, or maybe, the superintendents, they go to the Superintendents Association meetings and events, and then they learn all this stuff. And it's the greatest, latest thing to teach at your school or program to put through your school because everybody else is doing it. So there's a bigger problem, I believe, than most people know.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Until they have an incident at their school and then they have their eyes opened. Yeah, most people just don't know.
We were at the mall at the Mall of America. My wife was getting her nails done sitting next to a teacher there, and she was talking to her friends and saying how uncomfortable it was in third grade in Minneapolis having to teach kids about sexual things. And she said it was terrible. It was uncomfortable. She wasn't sure how much longer she would be able to stay in the system. So it wasn't the teacher. I mean, she was being told she had to do these things, and this was the curriculum. These were the books, And I coached I'm a life coach too, and I was coaching a teacher from Iowa somewhere. I'm not going to name from
Mhm.
where, but she was getting fed up with all this stuff, and she was in the third grade too, and she would have these kids debating about whether their older sister's friend was a boy or a girl or a I don't know, etc. But it stresses teachers out to have to deal with this stuff. And they're not the
Yes.
ones that are speaking up at the committee hearing meetings because they would be
Mhm.
crucified by the Iowa Teachers Association.
Yes. And I imagine there are some of us that know public teachers. I was just told of another one today in my community who teaches in a public school, but sends their child to a private school because they do not want their children exposed to what they see at school. They have an inside scoop and they are not teased. They don't want to do that to their own children. That's the freedom we have as parents, is to make sure you protect your child from things that are harmful to them. I just want to read. Can I read something to you? I was
Sure.
following the news about this House File 8, right? The don't say gay bill type language. Listen to what one of the largest organizations and most active organizations in Iowa that is pro LGBT and transgender and all that is Iowa Safe Schools and One Iowa. Both of them are very proactive. And this is a quote from Iowa Safe Schools, which is in these schools. Okay. And I want to read what they said about this bill that says, you know what, guys? 5-year olds, 6-year olds, 7-year olds, 8-year olds don't need to be exposed to obscene pornographic material and shouldn't have a conversation about gender identity and sexual orientation when they're that old. Okay. He says that this bill puts, I want to put a caveat on this. When you guys listen to this, listen to what they're saying, listen to the language that is being used here. Think about how it's drawing on your heartstring. Okay. It's an emotional appeal. He says this bill, House File 8, puts transgender students in danger if a teacher is forced to out them, especially if they have an unsafe home environment or are kicked out of the house. Okay, what age group are we talking about here? Again, we're talking about 6, 7, 8-year olds. Okay.
Okay.
And their argument, Iowa Safe Schools, is that, yeah, this bill is going to put transgender students in danger if a teacher outs them. Now, somebody asked me, what does that mean? Outs them. Basically, it means the teacher tells on them and says, hey, mom, hey, dad, you got a child over here that wants to be a boy or wants to be a girl if they're the opposite sex. And so, the push is that the school can retain that information, keep it private and not share that, right? And that they have an obligation to do that, to protect the child. That's how they're spinning this. This protects them just in case they're going to be harmed at home because they come out as, they come out as transgender. That's just not it. Let me read another quote. Okay. I just want you to hear the mind of the opposition that will come against bills like this. Again, talking about K-3 in this bill, they're addressing this bill. Restricting any LGBT conversations in K through third grade classrooms can hurt students' ability to empathize with others. So, that sounds like, oh my, we want children to care about each other, right? We want them to love each other. We want them to respect each other. If we don't do this, we may limit how they can relate and care about other students. We'll restrict their compassion. So I find that fascinating language because oftentimes the left, the LGBT community, whatever you want to, the people that oppose bills like this that want to protect children and just leave children alone and let children be children, use language that is very appealing to people who want who are compassionate and who want to care. Okay, it's very dangerous because very passionate, kind people get on the wrong side of the issue and they fight for it because they see it genuinely as as an argument that can really help and protect people, can help these children that are pretty much non-existent in most schools. I don't know a whole lot of 6-year-olds that are, I don't know a lot of 6-year-old girls that just want to be boys. That
No,
doesn't mean
I
they're not.
think when I was 6, I wanted to be a Jedi Knight or something like that. I mean,
Well,
I don't quite, and I love that you mentioned that and that you explained it so well because I've been trying to, I couldn't have explained it better because really people are compassionate and people
mhm,
they don't want kids to be hurt. They don't want anybody to feel less than. They don't want somebody to be bullied. And it's really manipulative. Turn that around on
exactly.
people and to use it as a tool to do
Hmm.
something that will be so much more harmful in the length
Hmm.
of somebody's childhood and adolescence and in growing up that
Exactly.
eventually could cause them irreversible damage because you're really sending them down a path that could be very harmful.
And we all know that we are told that if you don't affirm these students who are either want to be a different sex or trans or whatever, it's over, I think there's over 150 genders now. It's absolutely
Oh my
insane.
goodness.
Yeah. If you
150?
don't, I just had somebody told me that today. It was like 164 or something. So
164 different genders?
yes, it's very fluid. You can just
Wow.
do whatever you want. So um, the danger in this is if you don't affirm, you know, this this idea in their minds that they will be suicidal.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
what parent wants to hear that, oh my gosh, my child's going to kill themselves if I don't affirm the fact that they want to be a different, they want to be a
Here's
different
what they
gender?
say. They say better to have a live son than a dead daughter.
Bingo. Thank
Right.
you. That's right.
And how
And
wonderful is that to say that to a parent when the truth is
yes.
the opposite. Some girl goes and mutilates herself, has a mastectomy, takes a bunch
Hmm.
of hormones that could be cancer causing. Who knows? Could have all sorts of issues. We've seen some of the detransitioners that are now
Right.
suing their parents in schools that are saying, this is terrible. I can't believe they allowed me to do that. I was just a naive young kid. These influences were influencing me. The psychologist said, oh, well, you must be born in the wrong body. Let's help you transition. Who was there to stand up for me? That's what
Hmm.
that's what these young people are saying who have been, and there's a book, I can't remember her name. It's called Irreversible Damage. I mentioned it on the last podcast. Walt Rogers recommended it to me, and the transgender among young women is up 4,000%. I mean, they're at this
Yeah.
age where they're just trying to figure things out. I've had two daughters go through school, and I had to read the book Queen Bees and Wannabes to try to figure out their social structure and how all that works. Because my two boys, much easier. But the girls, that whole dynamic of trying to find yourself and where you fit in with your peer group and all those things and have validation, they're struggling and they're being taken advantage of at that critical moment in their lives.
Yep. Very, very true. We all know that children are impressionable and vulnerable. And quite frankly, it's a Marxist attempt to destabilize children when you confuse the very identity of them, the very idea that they're actually a boy. I mean, talk about confusion at its deepest root. When you do that and that child goes along, they're easily manipulated. Okay. So is guilting. Okay. When you mention about the parents, oftentimes manipulation results in guilting people who deny then common sense. Okay, boys, girls, very simple. It's common sense. Okay, I'm sorry we even have to have this argument, and that the legislature is having to spend all this time fighting for common sense, basic ideas that 10, 20, 30 years ago would not have even been on the radar for us. Okay. I talk to young 20, 22-year-olds, 20-year-olds, even now, and they're looking back to their high school years 4 or 5 years ago, not that long ago, and they're saying it wasn't like that when I was there. That's how fast
It
public
is.
schools
It is.
have changed
I
in
was
just the
sitting
last few
I
years.
was sitting in a meeting with our superintendent, and he said to me, and we had kids, older kids that went to school together. He said, "Is it really that much different than when our older kids were younger?" And I said, "Yeah, it's a lot different. Just in the last few years, the public school
Just in the
system
last
has
few years.
changed. Just in the last few years,
Yes.
you didn't have, kids in junior high school or late elementary
Mhm.
school concerned about their gender and
Right.
worried about all this crazy stuff. And it has changed, and it has changed rapidly. And I've noticed it this year even more than other years.
For sure. But I want to just throw out a website. So I do chair the Protect My Innocence group, and we have a website. And I encourage you guys, if you want to get on there and just sign up for, notifications and stuff like that. It's just protectmyinnocence.org. And we have on there a lot of resources and a lot of other links that people can go to as even a link to what if your 12-year-old comes home and says, "Hey, mom, you know, I think I want to transition. What on earth do you do about that?" And I've heard stories of that, and they've been exposed to ideas that you have to sort of root out. Again, that common sense that you cannot change your gender. You can't. It's immutable. And it's a blessing. You were born that way, and it's a good thing. And so, to again going back to the ideas that you can destabilize children by confusing them like that is just wrong, just plain up wrong. And I know most of your listeners, we don't have to convince them of that. That's why they follow freedom loving people like you, is because they it's not that hard. It's very
I
simple.
know. I
Like,
know.
one of
Common
my favorite
sense.
quotes,
Oh, go ahead.
I just want to say one of my favorite quotes that I absolutely love is, simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. Okay. So it's a much finer way to say, the KISS method.
Exactly.
So, hey, there's
So,
another bill.
yeah,
Okay. There's another
we've got
bill.
three bills, and if we continue this, it's gonna be dark before we're done. So,
Okay. Okay.
um, HF8, the
Yep.
that sounds great. We'll make sure we get that expanded to seniors and put some teeth in it. And then what's the next one?
So we've got 8. We've got House File 9. This one is real quick. Again, all it says is that teachers, administration, you can't hide things from the parents. It basically is requiring that parental consent be given for accommodations, I want to say, intended that'll affirm a student's purported gender identity if it's not the same as their biological sex. All
So they're
right. So
not going to
school
be saying,
employees,
okay, you want to be called Max, you want to be called Mary at school. We're not going to tell your parents, but we're going to tell the teachers to call you Mary.
exactly.
Okay,
Exactly.
perfect. That's
And
another
yep,
common sense bill that we shouldn't have to
yep,
have that we need to support.
exactly. Also, it says that school employees can't pressure or coerce the parents or the student to proceed with treatment or intervention to affirm their new gender identity. They cannot be encouraged to seek out that. They're trying to move so that young adults who aren't even of legal age to smoke or drink and things like that be able to have the authority to make permanent and irreparable changes to their body. Okay. To
Right.
at 15, 16, there's movements for that. It's crazy.
Irreversible damage. You
Yep,
can't
that's
smoke.
exactly
You
right.
can't vote. You can't buy alcohol. You can't join the military, but you can take hormones, mutilate yourself,
Yeah.
and yeah, not okay.
When you're as young as 15. We all look back, you guys, when we were 15, and you realize, gosh, I didn't know anything.
No, no, I knew
Yeah.
nothing. My parents knew
Yep.
everything, and I thought they knew nothing.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so HF9, fantastic. What's the next bill?
Okay, so again, this is one of the top 12 priorities. So be encouraged, parents. Again, this is a priority bill, and it's House File 5. And that's all about curriculum transparency, which was addressed last year too. It did not survive session. All right, it was killed. This particular House file on curriculum transparency 5, it will require districts and charter schools to post the syllabus or written summaries of classes and how they meet their educational standards. It'll require a list of the school library books that are available. It will put protocols in place for a review of instructional materials and library books, which is already in place. And as we know, a lot of our moms have been through that already. But if there aren't, it will look at that. And then, of course, professional development courses for teachers. It must post those. Okay, they have to be released and put out there. And this one does have some enforcement built into it. I have not actually read this bill yet. I'm sorry. I have just the notes on it, but it will require that the Department of Education withhold or replace or place restrictions on school funding if a teacher continues to be out of compliance. And so this
There
would be
you
referred to.
go. That will make the difference because all these superintendents are super concerned about funding. They'll take $300,000 to mask your kids, and they'll be concerned about every dime. So if you restrict their funding because they've violated some of these rules, that will make the difference.
Yes. Yeah. They always say, hit them where it hurts. And yeah, we know that public schools are very, very protective and fight a lot for their funding, and they never have enough, even though we know that the public schools get what, 54%, something like that, 53% of the entire state budget. Now, please understand, you guys, what that means. That means everything that the state makes for revenue, more than half of it goes to the public schools, and everything else, you realize what's left includes everything for anything that's paid for state, all of your court systems, your justice system. It's amazing because everything does always boil down to the money. And as I'm seeing as a newbie here, hearing people come to the Capitol and say, we need more funding for this, we need more funding for that. Iowa faces, we're in a great financial spot right now. Our budget that they projected for this year is going to be $9.1 billion. Okay. That's what we have to work with. So half of that, almost 5, is going to go to the schools. Just boom. Right now we're left with the $4.5 billion that we get to work with for everything else. And I don't think people understand how many entities that is for everything else. It's a lot. So I can't speak to that a lot because I'm still learning so much of that, but I'm amazed at how those billions are just so quickly. Yeah. And it's never enough. But yet at the same time, the Republicans have prided themselves on the fact that they are trying to take the tax burden off of families and individuals so that we're not so weighed down by it. And of course, the governor's proposing property tax reform this year. That's one of her main priorities. And so, and then last year was the income tax. And so, how it is, budgets, you have the money coming in before it can go out. And so how do you always balance that? And that I tell you it takes a special people to do, because they're working with billions in a budget.
Yeah,
I'll stick with my home budget, I think.
there you go.
So anyway, not to switch to the different topics, but yeah, 5 amazing bills, you guys, that came down as priorities. And so these are some of the top 12 priority bills coming out of the House this year, House File 5, 8, and 9, and they all have to do with protecting children from harmful, obscene, pornographic material in public schools. And this is the very reason why we just are spending the first portion of our the General Assembly talking about school choice. Okay, this is one of the reasons why. Now, it's not the only reason, but it is certainly the main reason, because parents want out and they need options, and they're going to tolerate this kind of harmful stuff to their children. So yeah, these three bills are very exciting to see. And like I said earlier, it's the reason why I got into this in the first place. So I understand too from previous legislators who have done this for a while, they have not seen such a conservative start to the beginning of the year, right off the bat. And so they're very encouraged that the social issues that caused such an uproar in the primary and general elections this past year are truly being brought to the forefront by leadership. Okay, by leadership, and all of them as a whole. So it's really, really encouraging. We're going to see something get done this year. I truly believe that. And if that doesn't happen, we get next year and we tweak it and we make it better. Wow, if it happened then, we got an election in 2024. And we may have the same thing happen again, where the social conservative issues of the day are going to take precedence over just your routine political discussions. So very, very exciting.
Yeah,
So
it's
be
very
encouraged.
exciting, and I think it's just a testament that to the hard work of parents and community members
Yes.
to reach out to their legislators and their representatives and to the governor. The last time I talked to her, she said education is number one this session. It's a top thing on their priority list, and that is because every parent in Iowa has been reaching out and saying, "Hey, look, this isn't okay. We need to do something about these issues." And I feel like the governor's been listening, and our representatives have been listening, and definitely our voters have been listening, right?
Yep. Absolutely. And we see the various levels of government responding. We actually do. So we're going to keep following through, and we're going to keep focusing and pushing it, and we will get results. I truly do believe that. I just want to be careful that we don't just get thrown a bone, like here's a little something now, go away.
Yeah,
We can't
yeah.
do that. Everybody has to stay engaged. Okay, pace yourself. Pace yourself. It's not a sprint. Now, the General Assembly time when we're in session is definitely a sprint, but pace yourself so that you can do this for the next several years and perhaps decades as we take back what has been stolen from our children, and that is their childhood and their innocence. And it's going to take time, so we cannot let up.
Well, thank you, Helena. Those are great words to end up the podcast on, and we really appreciate what you're doing. We appreciate what our representatives are doing right now, and we want to support them. Tell me your website again, the Protect My Innocence website.
Yep, it's just protectmyinnocence.org. So
Okay.
all lowercase. Find
Yep.
out who your representatives are and get to know them. Spend time with them, know them
Send her a
more.
big thank you, and email your
Yep.
legislator. Tell them to take a hard look at HF8, HF9, HF5. Tell them to vote yes on the school choice bill. We need to get that through. And we will definitely try to keep you all updated on legislation. If you feel so inclined, find the donate button. And we are the Freedom Factor, Iowans for Freedom. You can find us on our Facebook page or www.iowans4freedom.org. So until the next time, have a blessed day. And thank you so much, Helena, for joining us. We will see you.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
For sure. Thank you.